The legendary Saxon are back with a brand new album, Carpe Diem. Well, technically it will be out in about a week, but since I was already able to listen to it and I simply cannot wait to share the information with you, let's first of all take a look at what is inside the Saxon's 23rd studio album, how it may weirdly relate to the next Judas Priest effort, and then hopefully answer the question of whether Saxon are still relevant in the world of the heavy music. Here you go. The album's title track opens the record with an enchanting war drum beat which quickly grows into a thunderous, heavy intro. Overall, Carpe Diem Seize the Day is probably the most definitive song of the album as a whole. It is powerful, vigorous, and it holds the listener's attention from the very first till the very last note. And let's not forget that around 2 years ago, the band's frontman Biff Byford actually suffered a heart attack, and he actually started writing this album while he was still on a hospital bed. And it looks like with this record, Saxon are actually living up to the album's title, grabbing whatever the opportunities they have, not wasting any notes, and packing the record with some of the most killer riffs they've written in their entire career. With a catchy guitar lick of Age of Steam, Saxon bring a slightly darker atmosphere to the table, yet staying true to the formula they themselves set as a golden standard for heavy metal around 40 years ago. Once again, exploring the theme of meaningless industrialization, Biff Byford showcases that despite him being 71 years old this year, he still manages to make his voice sound as strong and powerful as he did when he was in his 30s. And once again, let's not forget that the guy just underwent an open-heart surgery a couple of years ago.
Exactly. An
enchanting intro to The Pilgrimage gives you a very strong 80s vibe. And for some weird reason, I actually think that it might be one of the strongest tracks on this record. And here's why. This song is actually rather simplistic, and at parts even cliché, yet being more than 6 minutes long. And that's a lot for this record, and actually doesn't feel overstretched.
Stretched like butter scraped over too much bread.
I've always believed that you don't actually always have to have a complex song structure to write an amazing melody. And even more, if you're actually able to write a simple melody which will resonate with its listener, touch them and make them feel something, that is actually a sign of mastery. And one thing that Saxon, as one of the founders of the new wave of British heavy metal, know how to do great after 40 years of their career is exactly that. And I think that, at least partially, its simplicity is what actually makes me like The Pilgrimage so much. I mean, that, or the fact that its title simply resonates with our channel's name. By the way, talking about Pilgrimage, if you would like to support my efforts of keeping heavy metal alive on YouTube and rock a Metal Pilgrim t-shirt or a hoodie, you'll be able to find a link to the order form in the pinned comment. I'll be very grateful for your support. Skull-crushing Dambusters is an ode to the Operation Chastise held by the Royal Air Force in 1943. And just like its predecessor, Iron Maiden's Aces High, it is full of galloping riffs and extremely memorable guitar licks, and yet by all means, it does not mimic Steve Harris's masterpiece in any way, quite the opposite. It is actually conducted in a very Saxon way, summarizing everything the band has been known for in the past decades, yet sounding very modern and 21st century-like. I actually am very surprised the band didn't choose this one as one of the album's singles, since it would definitely grab attention of both old school and newer metal fans. Yet instead, the band went with Remember the Fallen to promote the album.
It came across the China Sea. No one knew the threat to you and me.
Biff Byford himself said that Saxon loved to write about historical events, yet there are just so many of them which you could write about, and throughout the years Biff has written pretty much about anything you could possibly imagine. And thus Biff wanted to write a song about the most current events, about COVID, about how the people have died, and give his perception of how it seemed to happen, especially given the fact that it still hasn't finished yet.
Remember the heroes.
And thus ends the first part of the album, and here would be a good place to come to a first conclusion about Carpe Diem. Despite the band staying true to its form, Carpe Diem sounds extremely fresh and definitely feels like an album released in the 21st century, with blues bass guitarists like QUINN and SCARRATT embracing the new era of heavy metal, yet staying true to their own sound and tone developed by Saxon in the early 80s. In addition, the mastering, and I might be running a little bit ahead of myself here, but on all of the tracks on this record is simply exquisite. Maybe even the best in the band's discography. And all of that is of course at least partially thanks to Andy Sneap. Yes, the same Andy Sneap who's been touring with Judas Priest and will continue doing so on the next tour, and who is currently working on Metal God's follow-up to their latest effort, Firepower. And so here's the thing, after hearing what job Andy has done on the guitar front and on mastering of Carpe Diem, I'm not only not worried about the success of this Saxon album, I'm also very confident that Judas Priest's follow-up to Firepower is going to be a killer.
This next one will have its own legs, like they all do, its own character.
And since we are taking a little break here, I just wanted to remind you to not hesitate to comment on anything you hear or see in this video, and especially if you disagree with me, because the whole point of our reviews is to start a conversation. But alright, the break is over. Let's continue. Given the band's respectable age, I was expecting Saxon to slow down a notch on the second half of the album. Yet the fierce intro to Supernova quickly made me realize just how wrong I was. What? This song, just like the rest of the second half, is just as vigorous and powerful as the first one. And even the mid-tempo pieces, like Lady in Grey, keep the same level of energy and just once again prove that well into their 5th decade of existence, the band has just as much will to rock the world as they did before. And the songs like All for One, which title I assume is derived from Alexandre Dumas' Three Musketeers, and a fast-paced Living on the Limit with its wonderful breakdown will quickly become fans' favorite on all future live shows, which we all know are simply insane for Saxon, and at this point we just all have to hope that the future tour will happen this year. Overall, Carpe Diem is a very consistent record, and therefore I believe that fans' favorite songs from this album would be different for each and every one of us, depending on our emotional connection with the band, and might actually even change for each of us from time to time, and thus, realistically, I cannot point out which track on this record is the strongest one. Yet I could absolutely point out which song would be the best possible outro for this record. And it would definitely be Black of the Night. This track actually has everything you want to hear on a Saxon song, including a simple yet catchy guitar riffs, a stable rhythm section, and a very melodious and catchy chorus. And more than anything, the purpose of Black of the Night is for you to wish that Saxon would not only take this record out on the road, but it would also, despite their age, produce as many follow-ups to Carpe Diem as they possibly can. Alright, so what do we have so far? Is Carpe Diem worth your attention? Definitely. Is it the most innovative album of the past years? Definitely not. But this actually is a good thing, because this is an album by musicians who have their formula and know what they're doing, and yet are not being stuck in the past and are looking forward. Because despite Carpe Diem being a classic sounding heavy metal album, it actually sounds fresh and crisp and holds the listener's attention from the very first until the very last note. And I would actually go as far, and I know I might change my mind later on, but after a few listens I can actually outline that I believe that it might be the best album Saxon have put out since the early 80s. And therefore it is worth attention of not only a die-hard Saxon fan, but also of anyone who wants to get into the band's material. But anyways, what do you guys personally think about Saxon and about the singles which were already released? Or if you're watching this past the release date, what do you think about Carpe Diem as a whole? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this review, guys, and keep rocking.